All right, this is week 10, fractions homework. First question, the figure is cut into 15 equal pieces, shade 2/3 of the figure. So we could go through and we could shade 2 out of 3. Skip 1 and keep doing that. We also know there's 15 equal pieces, so 2/3 equals something 15ths. So to get from 3 to 15, we're going to multiply by 5. So we're going to multiply this by 5. So it's 10/15ths. So I could go through and shade 2 out of every 3, but I'm just going to shade 10 of them. And that should leave 5. So I shaded 10/15ths, which is the same as 2/3. You could also see each of these right there is 1/3. Right there is another third. So I shaded 2/3. Lots of ways to look at the problems this week. All right, question 2. Shade 1/2 of this figure. Okay, so we're going to shade half of it. We can see there's 6 pieces. So 1/2 is the same as how many sixths? Well, we're going to do that times 3. 2 times 3 is 6, so 1 times 3 is 3, so we're going to shade 3/6 of it. Or we can just kind of see, well, there's half of it right there. 3/6, 1/2, 1 every 2. Fill in the blank to make the two fractions equivalent. 1/2 is how many sixths? We just did that problem. To get from 2 to 6, we multiplied by 3, so 1 times 3 is 3/6. Fill in the blank to make the two fractions equivalent. 3/5 equals how many 30ths? We can go either direction with this. We can see, we know 30 divided by 6 is 5, or I'm going to go this way. 5 times 6 is 30, so 3 times 6 is 18, so 18/30ths. Write the fraction 30/54ths in simplest form. Well, the first thing I'm going to see is that they're both even. So since they're both even, I know I can divide by 2. There's faster ways to get there if you know your division well. If you don't know your division well, first see if it's divisible by 2, then see if it's divisible by 3. If it's not divisible by 2, so I'm going to cut both of those in half. 30 divided by 2 is 15. 54 divided by 2 is 27. They're not even anymore. Let's try divide by 3. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So now I have 5/9. 5 is prime, so I'd have to be able to divide that by 5. I can't, so that's my answer, 5/9. If you know your division facts well, you can see these are both divisible by 6. So 30 divided by 6 would have been 5. 54 divided by 6 was 9. Okay, right? 72/40ths in simplest form. Again, they're both even, so we can divide them both by 2. 72 divided by 2 is 36. 40 divided by 2 is 20. They're still both even. 36 divided by 2 is 18. 20 divided by 2 is 10. They're still both even. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 9/5. I could have initially divided both of these by 8 and gotten the same answer a lot faster. Okay. We can leave it as 9/5. I can also change this to a mixed number, which I'll get to in a little bit. Order these fractions from greatest to least. 3/7, 6/7, 4/7. I'm going to think of this in terms of shooting a basketball. I'm going to shoot it 7 times, 7 times, 7 times. This I made 3 out of 7. Here I made 6 out of 7. Here I made 4 out of 7. Which was the best? 6 out of 7. So that's my greatest. Which was my worst? 3 out of 7. So that leaves 6/7, 4/7, 3/7. Be careful. Sometimes it's going to ask you to order them from least to greatest. This one asked from greatest to least. If it was least to greatest, I'll just reverse all these. Okay, next problem. I'm going to order the fractions from least to greatest now. Like I just said, got to watch out for that. So that one we had similar denominators. This one we have similar numerators. Okay, so shooting basketball. 4 out of 9 shots, 4 out of 6 shots, or 4 out of 7. The best here is 4 out of 6. So 4/6 is going to be my greatest. my worst here is 4 out of 9. I didn't even make 50%. Here I made well over 50%. So when the numerators are the same, look at the denominators. 4 ninths, 4 sevenths, 4 sixths. Number 8, let's compare 3/8 and 1/3. First write the fraction with the same denominator. Okay, so I need a common denominator for 8 and 3. I could go through and find the multiples, 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 3, 6, 9, 12. I could do that. I also could do the quickest common denominator, where I just multiply these together. It doesn't ask for the least common denominator, just any. So to do this, I can multiply that by 3 and that by 8. So 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 3 is 9, so I have 9 24ths here. 3 times 8 is 24. 1 times 8 is 8. So here I have 8 24ths, here I have 9 24ths. So which is less? Well, 8 24ths is less than 9 24ths. So 1/3 is less than 3/8. 3/8 is greater than 1/3. Okay, next. Each circle counts as one whole. Write a mixed number given the amount shaded, then write it as an improper fraction. Okay, so I have one whole here, and then I have 1 out of 3 here. So it's 1 and 1/3. There it is as a mixed number. Now as an improper fraction. Well, they're broken up into thirds, so thirds is my denominator, and then I can count how many there are. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds. So 1 and 1/3 and 4 thirds. Okay, write 13/5 as a mixed number. So we can see it's an improper fraction because the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So we're going to see how many 5s fit into 13. 5, 10, 15, well 2 do. 5 times 2 is 10 with a remainder of 3. So we have 2 that fit in with a remainder of 3 out of 5. So my answer is 2 and 3/5. Now I want to write 2 1/4 as an improper fraction. So each of those 2 is 4/4. So I have 4/4 here, and I have 4/4 here, and then I have 1/4 here. So I could add those. 4, 4, 1 is 9/4. That's the long way to do it. Remember, going around the wheel here, we do 4 times 2 plus 1. So 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9/4. Okay, let's move on to a number line now. The next one says, give B on the number line. Okay, so it's going to be between 0 and 1, so my numerator, or I'm sorry, my whole number is going to be 0. You don't have to write it if it's 0. Then we want to figure out how many spaces there are between 0 and 1. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 spaces there. Count the spaces, don't count the ticks. Now I'm going to figure out how over B is. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6/8 of the way to 1. So the answer is 6/8. We could simplify that if it asks. It doesn't ask for that. We can divide both these by 2 and know the answer is also going to be 3/4. Next, write a fraction for your answer. Yeah, we did that. 13, plot 4/5. So first we want to make sure it's broken up into 5 places. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is. So now we're going to go over 4 out of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Next, plot 1/6. So I want to make sure there's 6 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I want to go over 1/6 of those. I'm just going over 1 out of 6. 14, find the position of F on the number line. Okay, so it's bigger than 1, bigger than 2, less than 3. So we know it's going to be 2, and however far from 2 to 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 is my denominator. And it's 1 out of 4. So my answer is 2 1/4. 15, plot 2 5/8 and 1 3/4. Okay, so first I got to see that how many spaces it's broken up into. So here's 2, here's 3. It's broken up into 8 places. So I'm going to go to 2 and then 5 out of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 2 5/8. Now 1 3/4. It does not want to know 1/8 or 3/8. Not 1 3/8. 1 3/4. So let's change our 3/4 into eighths, because we know they're broken up into eighths. To do that, we do times 2, and we see that 3/4 equivalent fraction is 6/8. So I'm going to go over 1 6/8. So there's 1, there's 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 8, 1 6/8. All right, so that's your homework for this week. That's what your quiz is going to look like over this week's questions. Hope you do a great job.